Hello everyone, welcome back to my channel. Hope you all are staying safe and staying creative. In my previous studio vlog, which was updated a couple of weeks back, I had mentioned about an exciting exhibition opportunity. And if you remember, I had shared some snippets of the initial stages of the preparation in order to create a new artwork for this exhibition. So, on the occasion of Qatar National Environment Day, which happens every year on Feb 26th, Al Hosh Gallery this time is curating an art exhibition which is really unique and one of a kind because it's going to be an outdoor exhibition and it's happening in coordination with Qatar Museum and the Ministry of Environment and Climate Change. Last month, the curator from Al Hosh Gallery had contacted me to check if I would be interested to exhibit one of my sculptural artworks in this exhibition. And guess what? I was more than thrilled because I came to know from him that he was planning to include artworks from few other artists as well who were working on similar field with similar ideologies, that is the environmental and sustainable themes and ideas. So I was more than excited to be included in that collection. I anyways requested few days time from him in order to confirm the specific artwork that I'm going to be exhibiting. Once I gathered some more details about the exhibition and the venue, that is one of the heritage sites of Qatar, that is Zikrit, I came to a conclusion that I do not have a perfect artwork that will fit the event. And then I came to the conclusion that I'm going to create one new sculptural artwork which will fit perfectly for the occasion. Since the event is going to be outdoors, I wanted to create something very close to natural element and also something related to the terrains that is found in Zikrit or desert area. That is how I decided to finalize the idea to create a floral sculpture inspired by this vibrant floral species that is named Cistantia tubulosa. I don't know if I'm pronouncing that right. So I decided to recreate a floral pattern or a formation inspired by this beautiful floral formation that is usually found in northern desert areas of Qatar. Last year, somebody had donated these gallons. I have 7 or 8 of them now. And from the initial sketching phase itself, I had these gallons in my mind and I wanted to create something out of these. So, as you might have noticed in the sketch, I wanted to create a base on which I can assemble the florals or the petal formations. So, I decided to make this as the base, and I thought the shape and the size of these gallons fit the design perfectly. Next task is to finalize the ways to assemble the textures onto this gallon and to finalize the medium that I'm gonna use for the petal formations. I had hundreds of these bullet shell leftovers from one of my earlier project. So initially I was thinking to use up these leftovers to form the textural patterns or the petal formations. But soon I realized since the space or the dimensions of the bullet shells is really small compared to a PET bottle, it's going to be really time consuming task to cut each of those bullet shells and assemble onto this gallon base. Then I finalized to use the PET bottles to create these petal formations. It's gonna be a long and hectic way ahead because I'll have to make hundreds of holes on the gallon base in order to fit these small bottles and make the petals like this. But let's see, it's gonna be exciting as well since it's something new for me. I also wanted to experiment with different types of paints for this. Even though I wanted to keep it close to the natural colors, I thought of playing along with different mediums. So the initial stage, I wanted to explore some leftover glass paints. I had been collecting these for years, and this was not a great quality glass paint, I would say, but it was sufficient enough or decent enough to cover the base coat or to cover the base of this gallon. Once that is painted and set aside to dry, I started tackling these small bottles. Had to clean them, cut it, and create the petal formations. And meanwhile, I also wanted to calculate and get an approximate number of bottles that can be used in each rose or each circular rose. So I'll get to know if I have sufficient number of bottles. I decided to go with the gradient colors, starting from a darker tone of yellow or sand brown shade, and then moving up to purple, and then to orange and yellow shade. So I decided to start with the light brown shade, and as per my plan, the bottom 2 or 3 rows will have the orange or warm sand colors, and then moving up, we'll have warm pink shades. Initially, it appeared to be darker brown, so I combined it with a warmer sand tone, and then I got a pretty decent or pretty close to the natural tones of yellow, and I'm pretty happy with this result. So I decided to stick on to this combination of colors for the first 2 or 3 rows of the petals. Then I moved on to combine the same yellow with lighter orange, and then to darker orange, and then to pink. It was fun to see and watch the progress of these petal formations and see its reflection. It took me more hours than my initial plan, and definitely more bottles than I had expected. Since I had the design in my mind and on my sketchbook, and also an approximate plan was in place, I was pretty confident about the process. If I'm remembering it right, I needed around 12 to 13 of these petals for each of the rows, at least the bottom couple of rows. So the process that I followed was initially to cut down 12 of these petals, paint them, and let them dry. And meanwhile, I'll start making holes on the gallon base. And approximately by the time when the paint of these petals would be dried and set and cured perfectly, I can easily assemble it onto the base, and the process will continue. So it was kind of happening simultaneously and parallelly, so it was kind of smooth for me. Since this technique is kind of new and was an experiment for me, I could feel that childlike excitement during each stage of the process. Even in this video, you can make out how hard it is to make a hole in the base. I tried different methods. I started with using a drill bit to create an initial hole in the base, and then progress with creating or carving another bigger hole, but it didn't work out well. So then I thought this is the perfect or the ideal way at the moment to get an initial cut using the knife, and then create a circular hole using the smaller scissor, and then insert the bottle. I often get asked about the special tools that I use to create the texture patterns, but this is the fact, guys. I do not have any fancy tools or any techniques to create these patterns. I just stick on to the traditional knives and scissors, but it works well for me. So moving on to yet another stage is to create some opaque or darker shades in the petals. So then I try to use these opaque bottles that has a darker white base, unlike the transparent bottles. So it was giving a different color or different hue altogether, and I was really liking how this darker shade is complementing the areas of transparent yellows and transparent pinks. So yeah, I really like the combination of the opaque and the transparent layers of petals. I must admit, I started getting a bit worried towards the end of the project since the deadline was approaching. And finally, the next stage is to double check all the placements and make sure all the petals are in place, and then sticking the floral structure onto the base. And finally, the day has come, and the people have come to collect the artwork, which will be transported in this truck along with yet another artwork from the fire station gallery, and it will be safely transported to Sikrit. And soon was the first day of this event, which was on 24th of Feb, and my husband and me decided to take this 1 hour trip to Sikrit, which was a beautiful long drive during the weekend. As we were approaching, we could already see this beautiful solid sand dunes, and we could feel the difference of the terrain compared to the Doha side. And it was so warm, and the sun was shining bright by evening 4. And this was the starting point of the event, which was named Brook. Off the road in the desert, few minutes ride, and we are finally at the destination. As I mentioned earlier, this venue was just magical, and Al Hosh Gallery, Qatar Museum, and the Ministry of Environment had chosen and executed this event so beautifully. I was fortunate enough to have a good interaction with His Excellency, Minister of Environment and Climate Change. People were totally in love with this beautiful terrain, and I was so happy and overwhelmed to receive so many positive feedbacks for the artwork, because people felt this artwork really fit perfectly in this beautiful terrain, which had the natural hues of desert, and the people could totally relate this floral structure to the real natural flower that they could see in the Qatar deserts. Not just that, I felt really proud and happy to be exhibiting one of my artworks among other eminent Qatari artists. As I mentioned, this 3-day event was so special and really different from many other exhibitions that I had taken part. The nature, the artworks and installations around me, the sunset, the complementing music, and the audience, everything was so motivating and inspiring. I've always felt that the decisions or the choices that we make at certain points in our life plays a major role in our journey. And seeing my artwork exhibited in this perfect venue gives me that validation that I made the right choice or the right decision to create a new sculpture, especially for this event. I have to compliment and appreciate the efforts put in by the gallery curators and the organizers of this exhibition, not just for curating the perfect artworks, but also for the tiniest details that complemented or that elevated this whole experience or the ambience of this event. I would love to hear from you if you have ever been to Sikrit or to any other desert terrains similar to this. Even though the third and final day was a weekday, we were so excited to see people flooding to experience this event. I am literally more than thrilled to receive wonderful feedbacks about the artwork. And I'm so glad many of you visited and experienced this event. I hope you enjoyed watching this small visual treat. If you did, please don't forget to let me know by dropping a comment. Also, I would really appreciate if you could consider joining this art journey by pressing that subscribe button. See you all real soon with yet another interesting video. Until next time, it's bye from me.